Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. And today with me, I have a community leader, a role model, and an amazing lady that has a big heart. Her name is Mila Johansen. I hope I said that right, Mila. Did I say that correctly? Very cool. All right. So thank you for setting the time to be here because I know you're super busy and you just are involved in a lot of different projects. And thank you, audience members, for tuning in. Mila, can you tell our family here who or what do you do and why that is something that parents should consider and focus on?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored, by the way, Dr. L. And well, I'm a writing, publishing, and public speaking coach. And I started this years ago. I've been a teacher all my life because my grandmother was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. You know how you usually follow in the footsteps of your parents, even though you don't think you will. So I became a teacher. I've been teaching for decades, centuries, decades. And I did this book about my grandmother from Cowgirl to Congress. She was a very famous suffragette that helped raise me, and she taught Eleanor Roosevelt to speak, and she was the first woman lobbyist at the Capitol. And she put together, believe it or not, the Pulitzer School of Journalism with one other man. And then she set the first minimum wage for women in America from, if you can imagine this, $4 a week to $8 a week. And she worked really hard to get children out of the factories. And so she was amazing. And she came from a terrible childhood, which is such a good story because, I mean, terrible, like you can't even imagine, like, anyway. So from in a Colorado cattle ranch, but a teacher saw how brilliant she was and sent her to the East Coast to Smith College. And then she just got all these jobs. She must have had a beautiful star above her head because she was on the front lines of everything. And so then she helped raise me. And in her early 90s, she took me along while she spoke with Gloria Steinem, Marla Thomas, and Jane Fonda in Hollywood all the time. Yeah. Later on, I worked for Jane Fonda. You know, she is a lovely person. I really enjoyed working for her. And so anyway, I wanted to be a writer all my life. And when I was a kid, I saw the movie Mary Poppins. I was 8 years old, and I came home and I do some of those chalk drawings, and I tried to jump in, and I believe I could. I tried 8 times, but guess what? Guess what, Dr. L? I still believe I can do it because I do other things like that sometimes. And so anyway, but it didn't work. So then I thought, well, I could write a book. So I wrote a page and a half, and I quit because I was 8. But that I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 8, and I probably wanted to be a teacher because I was always a leader of the kids in the neighborhood. You know how you have those propensities when you're very young sometimes. And so I became a writer and a teacher, and I help people write their books, which is so much fun to see their books come to fruition and so much easier than they think. So I make it super easy and fun, things like that.
That's amazing. Actually, in this day and age where we are worried about mental health, that actually is a great way to actually keep your sanity because one of the things that drives people into depression, into suicide, is the fact that they feel unheard and unseen. And when you write a book, it has that effect. So if your child is somebody that is experiencing those kind of things, having them go through that practice makes a huge difference in having their personality blossom and feeling that they're calmer and seeing them that they're calmer because they feel seen and heard. It's a huge thing. So even if they're 8 and they write 1 page, I think is better than none. So thank you for what you do. Awesome. So books. Now, in this day and age of technology, where do books fit into our lives? Can you tell me a little bit more about this and why should parents kind of
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that Denise Thomas, who is part of our group too, says that if you can write a book as a teenager or a young kid, then you have a better chance of getting into college because that will separate you from the masses because most people aren't going to have the bandwidth and the wherewithal to finish a book. So that's another big point. But yeah, you know, books are amazing because a lot of people, I'm on Facebook a lot, and everybody says, I'd rather have a real book in my hand. And me too, even though I do books on tape because I'm busy and I listen while I'm driving. And then I always end up buying the book so I can see how they did it. Like, oh, where'd they put the page numbers? And I look at the format, you know. And so books are going to fit into our lives forever, even if we do go to ebooks, which I don't think is going to happen. People want real books on their shelves. The libraries have the books. You can order any book you want from any library. And you're right about writing books. Oh my gosh, it does so much for your self-esteem. And a lot of business people are writing books to build their authority and to teach from. And I was looking at my books that have sold just in the last few months, and not very many, but I've sold a lot of my programs from it. So because I'm helping a lot of people, publish their books. But it's there's nothing better. I have a mentor, and she tours the world. She doesn't want to live in England because it's cold, so she house sits all over the world, all over. And she takes her 2 children and homeschools them. And at 8 and 10, they've each written and published 2 books. So you're never too young. There's so much kids can write about. They can write about their animals, their travels, their grandparents, their own memoir. You're never too young to write your own memoir. And I am encouraging everybody, especially us elder types, to write our memoirs so our children will know we were young once. And then it's just so much fun to write a book. You're right. There's so much self-esteem involved in that.
Mila, actually, you mentioned something that's really profound, because my grandfather, I never met him, but for some reason, spiritually, I'm very connected to him. But I don't have enough information. But he was a poet and he was a writer and he wrote a journal. So it's a way for me to connect this transgenerational thing about a person that I never met, but I feel connected to. And one of his poems is actually in the dining room wall of my parents' house. So like every time that I see it, I feel that connection, basically. So you never know what
put all that into a book, take his journals and publish it on Amazon just for you and your family, even if you don't want to sell it. And you can do that. You can only publish 2 books and you're still good. This book, I loved my grandmother. I mean, I tear up when I talk about her. So I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm tearing up now.
And here's the other part. I tell my son this all the time. Just like anything else, it's a habit of sitting down and kind of, at the very least, write down what happened and journaling basically your day. But the reality of it is that, especially with younger kids, as you age, you go through that process of maturity, and going through that process where you go from a kid to a young adult, and the thought processes and the aha moments. And that is a precious gift to leave for you. Like, you want to parent the easy way. If you have that about what you experienced as a child and what the solutions were and what your thoughts were, and giving it to your kids, that actually might not only be a bonding situation, but actually might give them a lot of lessons that you have learned along the way that you might have even forgotten about, in a very indirect way, so they don't feel like you're preaching to them. So
and you're bringing up a really good subject that I'm helping a lot of people do, is let's take your journals, your blogs, your master's thesis, anything, and let's make them into books. You may have already enough material, you won't even have to write.
You might already be a doctor. You are definitely a doctor about your own life. So you have a PhD in yourself.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So what are some of the challenges that you see when people are approaching you about books, authorship, anything in that arena?
Well, I think one thing to do is to know that it can be completely free now on Amazon. And you might want to get someone like me to help you get through some of that. But then again, you don't really need it. You could go through it straight through Amazon. It's like a website. There's a front end and there's a back end. And they lead you through how to build that back end. The back end. And you can join KDP right now. A lot of people are joining before they publish to get the tutorials. They have a thing called KDP University. That's Kindle Direct Publishing. KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, the Amazon arm. And you can get the tutorials, and guess what? You can get templates to type right into and then publish those. I mean, it's magic now. It's like you can do it. I would say, please get an editor, a professional editor, not a friend, not you, so that we don't put out more bad books. That might be the price you have to pay. But you can put out books, short books. The shortest book you can put on Amazon right now is 36 pages. Come on, all of you can write a 36-page book in a weekend about what you know and work on it, make it better, and publish it in a week or 2. And use it for a card, a handout. Oh, I'm giving away a gift today, 101 surprising tips to promote your book. And that is a 70-page book, so you can see what a short book looks like and how the inside should look or could look. You know, what I say is go home tonight, open 10 books on your bookshelf and look at their formats, like where are the page numbers? Some people put them in the right-hand corner at the bottom or at the top. Joseph Campbell, he does it at the top. I like mine at the bottom so people can flip and find it. The popular thing right now is in the center, but I don't think it's easy to find your pages then. So you just look and see what other people are doing, what their margins are. Just copy them. Your book won't look like theirs, but you'll learn how to do it that way.
Cool. I like it. So what would be the one tip that you have for our families here that from watching this they could implement? I think you already have mentioned a few things, but what would be the most important?
The most important is just start. Put your pen on the paper or your fingers on the keyboard and don't let anything stop you, and try not to be perfect. Just blather it as fast as you can. When you read it later, it will be better than you think. But we have editors, and Barbara Kingsolver says, give yourself permission to write a bad book and then work on it until it's a good book. So my suggestion is write. And if you're going to write, the word on the street now is 20 minutes a day. I say 5 minutes a day adds up to a book. Toni Morrison, the famous novelist, said she had 15 minutes a day to write her book because of children and work. And now she's a famous novelist. So don't let anything stop you. Don't look at grammar. Don't look at spelling. Blather it down and fix it later. And give yourself that, if it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, new writing. That's the big tip on the street too. Only new writing, no hiding behind research and editing. I hide behind research and editing. So I've taken on this only new writing during that dedicated time.
That's a good tip. What about audience members who might have difficulty with the actual process of writing or typing? I believe there are other ways of writing that has nothing to do with writing neither. Is that true?
Zoom. Use Zoom or Otter. There's Otter, but Zoom is really good. I've done this where I interview people for ghost books I write, and I interview them for like a half hour, and then there's a transcript, and you got the whole transcript. And what's good about that, their actual words are gold. So you could do that for yourself. The only thing about Zoom is it comes out a huge mess and it takes a while to edit. But give yourself that time, but you've got your actual words. You've got their actual words. And also if you need any help with any of this, I have my website, milajohansen.com.
I was just going to ask you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
You're ahead of me. That's awesome. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that you guys have a way of connecting with Mila. It actually is very important for us to role model this behavior for our kids, that the world is not a dark and scary place, that there are people that actually have our interest at heart. They want to support us, and it is okay to reach out and connect. And we need to role model this behavior for our kids, that we don't have all the answers and you don't have to do all the heavy lifting by yourself. And they need to see that in action, basically, because we have all the technology and all this globalization, but we're finding out that the kids are feeling more and more isolated today than they were 20 years ago. So really, really important for them to see what it looks like in action. So connect with Mila, connect with the paper, connect with the Zoom, whatever it happens to be, get your words out there, connect to audience members that you may have, and basically through the process, you actually make the world a better place, and you make it richer because there's now evidence of you existing and your gems and the expertise that you experience. So that is foundational. Now, Mila has generously put a lot of details for me to include with you. So check the description box here. There is tons of stuff that you can take advantage of. And also there's ways to connect with her. So connect with her. If you haven't already done so, connect with us by clicking subscribe so that you can get notifications of all the experts like Mila that come on this channel, sharing their passions and expertise and their gifts with us. And once again, thank you for joining us and being here. We know that you're busy. Mila, any final words for our audience members before we finish?
Well, I always do like to close with Oprah's statement. We have to reinvent ourselves till the end.
I like that. Yeah. Actually, that process should never end. We probably, after we are done, we are reinventing ourselves.
Right on. You're right.
Absolutely. So I love it. And thank you, Mila, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. We'll have more collaborations to come. Cheers.
Thank you.